And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a big giant game from Awakened Realms. That's kind of saying the same thing over again. They're always big giant games called The Great Wall. But this is a game unlike the other ones that Awakened Realms has come out with. They've done Nemesis, a big giant game where it's basically Alien, the board game. And we have Tainted Grail, a huge exploration game. And then we had Ether Fields, another exploration game. ISS Vanguard coming out, another huge exploration game. The Great Wall, well, it's big, but it doesn't have that exploration and combat. This is a Euro game, essentially, a worker placement game, but one centered around combat. Together, you and the other generals at the table are defending China from the hordes that are coming in of barbarians, and you are building the Great Wall and sending out troops to fight against them. It is not a cooperative game, although there are cooperative rules and a separate set of components to play cooperatively. And in fact, I haven't played cooperatively with other people. I set it up, walked through it a little bit, and I like the idea of it. I don't think I would mind playing it cooperatively, but this is a competitive game because you're just trying to get more honor than everybody else. And so, you are working together thematically, but at the end of the day, I want to go home with the most honor. Even if the wall is overrun, at least I tried harder than everybody else. Here's how it plays. And the artwork is just gorgeous. Going through all the cards, from the leaders to the advisors, it is brilliant watercolor. I like the cards, but the board itself just looks really good. It's a little messy graphically, saying where the different things go, but that is my biggest complaint. I'm really happy and love the components of this game. In this game, players are trying to get the most honor by defending the wall, by doing various things that are going to get you honor, but it's mostly by defeating the different cards that are coming for the wall. You see here there's some brutes attacking the wall, but there's spots for more of them, and there's a track right here on the table which is going to keep track of the number of rounds in the game. So you're looking right now at the 3-player board here. The other side would be for 4 players, and this will show you basically how many cards are going to come out each round. At the beginning, there's 3 on the board already, but there's going to be more cards added to the table, more of these onrushing hordes that you have to fight off. Players are going to take each round, and there's a lot of different things going on in the round, but basically you have a pile of cards here. Everyone has the same set of cards. You're going to pick one of these cards to do, whether it's Betrayal, which copies someone else's card, or you're going to attack with your forces that are on the wall. But most of the time, it's going to have to do with your clerks. Each player will start with a bunch of clerks, although you can buy more of them as the game goes by. When you play a card, these are going to be placed out there. They're going to be put up here at the top of the board and played in turn order. So let's say my card is first. Then I'll say, all right, so I get to move all of my people, all the scribes that I have, all the clerks I have to any location. Then each other player can put 2 of theirs out on the board, and then something special will happen here. And I'm not going to go over all of them in detail, but each one, like this one lets me move 4 of my scribes, and each other player can move 2. This one lets me move 3 of mine, and each other player can move 2. So they're all going to be doing different things. When you place your scribes on the board, there are various places you can place them. These green spots can hold as many people as you want, while the other ones, you're just slowly filling them up, and different players are going to place their pieces there. After a card has gone through and you've sent out the different folks, the different clerks that are on the card, some of the spaces are going to activate. If it's red, it's only going to activate if it's completely full. So if this worker isn't there, if this clerk isn't there, nothing happens. But if it's full, it completely happens. While each green space goes off no matter how many people are there. Many of the spaces, if you're the only person to put people there, then you're going to take a dishonor token. You're being greedy. So hopefully that won't happen. Now the bottom spaces are pretty easy. They're going to give you resources. When this space activates, every clerk you put there gives you a wood, stone, gold, and chi. So if you want those resources, they're the main resources of the game, you're going to go to those spots. After you get wood, stone, and gold, you're able to pay or to donate one of those to the supply here. If you do that, you get 2 honor. You're kind of donating it to the general supply. No one's going to fault you if you don't do it because you may need to keep the stuff yourself, but this general supply is going to build up. You also can pay another resource. So if I'm on the wood spot here, for example, I can pay 2 chi to put an overseer out. When you put an overseer out, you're going to put one of your soldiers there, which might not be something you want to do because you only have a limited number of soldiers. But in the future, let's say this filled up again, I'm going to get 1 wood, but this overseer gives me an extra wood. And if I move the overseer up, which is going to keep costing me chi, I'm going to get extra wood. Also, between rounds, these overseers will provide you with the resources too. So that's a good way to improve resources, but at the cost of a soldier and paying another resource to move it up. Resources are mostly spent in 2 different ways. One of them is by going here to buy more troops. And you can see it costs 2 stone and a wood to buy infantry, 2 chi and a wood to buy an archer, and 3 gold and a wood to buy a horseman. And so you're going to go here to buy troops, which will then be sent out to attack the barbarians. Going here is going to get you these cards. You'll draw these cards in your hand. Each card can be played at very specific times. This says play when you attack with a soldier. Other players can recruit a infantry for free. If they do, that infantry must attack. But every card that you play, you can boost it by paying chi, and it does something better. There's not a ton of different cards, but the cards are really useful, so going here will get you more of them. This spot here is very important because of the tea ceremony. Being at the top of this spot is going to let you break ties. You decide the order that these cards are played each round, and it's fantastic. So going here can move you up 1, and if you take both spots, you move all the way to the top here, which is a pretty big deal. Going to this spot here is going to let you move your soldiers around from one spot to another. Going over here lets you spend resources to build parts of the Great Wall. You're able to build barricades or big chunks of the Great Wall. When you do that, you can use these resources here, but if you don't have enough resources, you can spend resources from your own. Players start the game with some barricades, but they're not going to do probably well enough. You can see these guys are coming in, and they're going to be doing a certain number of damage to the wall. So you'll see here that there is 8 damage they're going to be doing to the wall. Each barricade only protects from 2. So that's not enough, but if I get 5 resources, I can build the bottom section of the wall, which has a defense of 8. I pay 10 more resources, I build the next section, which is a defense of 12, and the next one. You'll notice the higher you build the wall, the more spots for archers you have, because this is where when you place archers, they're going to go. And also, the number of resources you pay is the number of points or honor you get, which is a pretty big deal. I'm not going to get into combat too much, but basically it's pretty simple. When you recruit troops, you send them out immediately, and they're going to sit on top of the cards here, and whatever card spot they sit on top of, you're going to get the reward from that. In his case, it's gold or 2 honor. And if you completely cover up the card, it's defeated, and whoever has the most troops on it is going to keep the card, which at the end of the game can be worth points. In this one, it's 8. Cavalry are pretty cool because they cover up 2 spots. Archers don't run into as much danger. They shoot from the wall, but each round they're going to get to shoot, and they're just going to cover up the spots. You don't get the rewards, but it's a little easier, and you just cover them up with blood spots. Again, you're trying to completely clear out the card. When a card is defeated, it's going to kill some of the soldiers on the card, although there's ways that you can protect them with chi and with other cards from dying. And then the soldiers that survive are going to just come back to the waiting area here where they can be deployed again with cards. At the beginning of the game, players are going to get a leader. You're going to get 2 and pick between them. That leader gives you your starting resources. The last number basically determines the starting order in the teacup ceremony. It gives you special abilities. So for example, this character, every time you recruit at least 1 soldier, you get some chi. Now, how much chi do you get? Well, you're also going to get 2 advisors, and you have to decide one of the advisors you'll start with. So this one, for example, every time I build the barricades, I can recruit a troop for free in a chosen rest zone. All right, cool. Or I could have picked this one. Every time I attack with horsemen, I get to draw a card. I think I like this ability better. So the other one is tucked underneath my leader, showing that icon there. Which means every time I recruit at least one soldier, I get 2 times the number of icons there, chi. So I get 2 chi. Now, as the game goes by, one of the action spaces I showed you, or didn't show you, lets you recruit more clerks that you'll be able to use to place out on the board. But also you can pay money to get more specialists. And every time you get a specialist, you have to decide, how am I going to use that specialist? Am I going to use it for a special ability, giving me another special ability? Or am I going to upgrade the power of my main character's special ability? That's pretty much the gist of the game. Over the course of the game, if the walls are broken through each round, it doesn't make you lose the game. Instead, everyone who's not helping defend is going to get honor points or dishonor points, which are -5. You also have to tie up one of your troops on these, or you put it on a card that you've won, so they're not good at all. You can get rid of them over the course of the game, and you want to. So these will lose you points. You're going to get points for the different cards that you defeated. And at the beginning of the game, there's going to be some of these victory point cards at the top. Like, for example, this gives you 3 points for each overseer level. This gives you 7 points for each thing that you have that's above 2. Each of your advisors that you have that's more than 2. This gives you points for each people who are still on wall sections. And so you're going to have some of these out on the board, then everyone's trying to accomplish those. This plus all the points that you got during the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. There's a lot of components in this game, and that's why I'm showing it to you all here packed up. I was able to get it all in. I have all the cards sleeved. I don't normally sleeve cards, but I got the sleeves with it, and they're beautiful sleeves. We'll look at that in a second. The components were upgraded here, and I have them in this little tray here, which I don't dislike. And then these walls all have to be built, but they stay together very firmly when they're done. And then the board. And then I have all the miniatures and trays. Now, I'm not a huge keep miniatures and tray kind of guy, so probably these would fit in the box a little bit better without trays. But currently it fits in the box great with the trays. But wow, the minis. The miniatures for this game are the nicest miniatures of this size that I've ever seen. They're maybe not as big as many of the CMON miniatures, but these are the smaller miniatures for the troops on a map type game. And they come, and this is the set I have, where they are, have this kind of dry brush or whatever it is on top of them. And they look great, but if you'll notice, each one also is very different. So you can see the red horsemen, the blue horsemen, and then the yellow and the green horsemen all look different. And they're just fantastic. I know there's a version of this game out there that you can get with just meeples. I would never want to play that. Normally, I'm okay with that. I don't need miniatures in all my games. But the miniatures in this one, not only are they just beautiful to look at, but they look good on the board. And as you place the different miniatures, when you have the wall here and you place the miniatures on the wall, it looks good. So when you put these walls out on the board, it just looks fantastic. So unnecessary in many ways, but just having the archers on top and sitting up there and waiting for them. The visual aspect of it, it is the Great Wall. Now that's kind of a very basic overview of the game. There is a lot more involved, but it isn't actually that difficult. The trickiest part of the game is knowing how to send out troops, how the troops get placed, and fighting that. I mean, the game has very distinct points, and there's a lot of minor rules that are easy to forget, but I just follow along the list. Like at the beginning of each round, the card that you played, you don't automatically get that back. You can take it back, but if you don't take it back, you get 2 points for each one you haven't taken back. So you could play the game never playing the same card twice, but you probably want to. One of them lets you get soldiers for cheaper. One of them lets you get the overseers. That's probably the first one you want to play, but maybe not. So that's like a minor rule, but makes a big change. Let's talk about the things I like. I love the special powers in this game. I like any game that gives you special powers. And in this game, you start with 2. You have your main general's power and then the advisor power. So you have 2 powers. And as the game goes by, you can get more. But what they do is they tempt you, because do I want another power, or do I want to make my main character's power better? That's a great, tough decision. And that decision is compounded on the rest of the game. The worker placement aspect here is very different than most games. In most games, you put out a worker, you do what it says. Or in some games, you put out workers, and after everyone has put them out, you do what it says. Here, you're playing through each player's card. So in a 3-player or 4-player game, you're playing through 3 or 4 cards. Each card, everyone puts out the workers. You then see what activates. Sometimes the person who played the card can pick a spot to activate, even if it's not full, which is interesting. But some only activate when they fill up. So you're kind of cooperatively working together. Like, let's both go to gold. But you're only going to go there if it also helps you. And that aspect is really neat. Plus the overseers, that's a cool concept. The card plus worker placement. And in fact, that's a good chunk of the game. I like the various options. You can build the Great Wall itself. That's worth a lot of victory points. You can try to go for those endgame victory point conditions, but you gotta fight off the invaders. Now, how do you do that? Maybe you concentrate on archers. They don't give you a lot of points during the game, but every time you block an attack, archers can give you more victory points. Maybe the cavalry, you only have 2, but they cover up 2 spots, and doing more of that, winning those cards can really win you the game. You win a lot of those barbarian cards, you will overall win the game. So I like all that. What do I not like? The game is long. I think it works really well at a 3-player game. A 3-player game is about 2 hours, which I guess is not that long, but there's a lot of setup and tear down and stuff involved too. And a 4-player game is going to take 2.5, maybe even 3 hours. But it feels like you're involved the whole time. I'm always thinking, when you place workers with your card, I'm also placing workers with mine. There's this constant ebb and flow. And it feels like there's one too many mechanisms. Here's my problem with that, though. I think that I'm like, God, it just feels like there's one too many things. But what would I cut? I don't know. I like the worker placement. I like playing the cards. I like sending out the troops. I like the special abilities that you have. Everything's so interesting. It's a heavier game, but it is one that offers really good choices. What troops are you going to build? What things you're going to do? And I'm not even including the amount of expansions and stuff. I haven't touched any of that at this point, although I want to. But I feel like there's plenty of game in here. And then there's that cooperative game on top. Now, the production is amazing. Yes, the normal version with the downgraded resources and the wooden people is not as good, but still, that artwork is phenomenal. But when you have the version I have, this is one of the most beautiful games in my collection. It really is. And I haven't upgraded or done anything to it. It looks good. Of course, this is Awakened Realms, and we come to expect this from them. So this may not be streamlined enough for some. I definitely get that. Thematically, it is on point. I feel like we're defending the Great Wall. It's not silly. It treats it with a decent amount of respect. I know there's some more mythological stuff in some of the expansion, but this is very straightforward. It's not like that highly regarded movie that came out. The worker placement is going to appeal to people who like that mechanism. But then there's war, but it's not rolling dice. There's not really any randomness in the game. But you got to say, hey, we're all working together to defeat this enemy. But no one's fighting this one, and this one's going to get through. So maybe I'll go over here and fight this enemy. They'll win, but at least I maintained honor while my opponents did not, because they didn't bother going to fight this person. Or I'll just build the Great Wall, and hopefully that can hold the hordes off. Because as each card comes, they add their strength together to hit the wall. So you're going to need to start killing cards to stop them. There's so many choices. You cannot do everything, which is a delicious decision to make. Delicious, like, but I like it. Every game's going to feel different because there's so many different generals and advisors. You'll have different combos every time. Knowing when to get and use those special cards, knowing when to let some of your troops die or when to save them. There's a lot going on. You will not be satisfied with your first play. You're going to want to try again. I'm very happy with the components of this game. I mean, I have the deluxe version, but even the non-deluxe version has that amazing artwork in this game. But this deluxe one with the walls being built and then the troops and stuff. So much involved here. This is the game of the night. This is the big, meaty game that you pull out to play, and it's going to be one that you talk about. I'm not sure that it's a game for everyone. I think that's for sure, but it's definitely for me. It's a game that kind of gives me that, fighting combat feel. It really isn't one with that worker placement aspect that I really enjoy. I'm sitting there the whole time on the edge of my seat, interested in everything, worried about the wall, worried about how I'm going to get points, worried about what cards people are going to play, a little bit of diplomacy talking back and forth, just lots of great, interesting choices. Fantastic game. Check it out. I'm Tom Vasel. This is The Great Wall, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent.